Hi everyone, it's Monica, and welcome back to TaylorMade Cards for You. Well, today I'm participating in the Crafter's Castle YouTube video hop featuring CreateForLess. It starts today, Saturday, June 1st, and it goes through Friday, June 7th. Now, we're giving you plenty of time to watch all 6 design team member videos, and there's going to be links below to the design team hops where you can easily hop from one video to the next. Our theme for this video hop is mixed media, and I'm going to be creating for you a mixed media card using some products from CreateForLess. Now, there is going to be a wonderful giveaway from CreateForLess that I'm going to be talking about at the end of the video, so make sure you stick around for all the details. So I started out with some heavy cardstock, and then I got some texture paste and this stencil from THoltz. And then I took my palette knife and I just spread my texture paste all over my stencil. Now, if you've never used texture paste before, it's kind of like a frosting, and it slides really easily over your stencil. Some of the texture paste is a little bit more gritty, so it really depends on what brand you're using, but the one that I'm using was really smooth and it worked really well on my stencil. Now, the one thing that you want to be aware of when you are working with texture paste or any type of mixed media paste is you want to make sure that you do clean off your stencil and your work area before it dries, because it will get hard and that will affect using your supplies in the future. So to help with the drying process, I did pull out my heating tool and I decided to dry my texture paste so that way I can continue to work on my card. Alright, so I am going to be using some cardstock from the Summer Cardstock collection from CreateForLess. They have several different stacks that you can choose from, and I decided to work with this one because it had some nice vibrant colors for summer. Now, I'm going to be matting my white cardstock onto this pink cardstock, so I wanted to go ahead and trim it down because I am going to be making a A2 card, which is going to measure 4.5 by 5 1/4. Now, as you can see, my white cardstock is still a little bit bigger than the pink cardstock, but that's intentional because when I am creating a mixed media card, I do like to have my cardstock a little bit larger than my finished piece, so that way I can trim it and have it look a little bit more organic. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and start adding some color here using some of my Distress Oxides. And the color that I'm using today is Picked Raspberry. I'm going for a nice summer card, and I'm going to be using some really nice bright colors here. So using my blending tool, I just added some of the Picked Raspberry, and then I'm going to come in with another color here, which is the Spun Sugar, I believe. So it's just two shades of pink that I'm using to add some background to my cardstock. Now, one thing that I really like about creating mixed media cards is it doesn't have to be perfect. As you can see, this blending is not perfectly blended, but I really like the fact that it looks random, and that's really the look that I like to go for. The texture paste gives it enough texture to be able to grab onto that ink as well, so it really helps to add some dark colors in some places and lighter colors in others. Alright, so I am going to continue with this pink theme, and I'm going to add some of this metallic pink paint to the cardstock. And I'm just going to take a paintbrush here and just kind of dab it around. I'm not going for really any pattern, I'm just looking to add color to my card. So as you can see here, there really is no skill to this technique. All I'm doing is taking my paintbrush and dabbing it into the paint, and then just adding it sporadically around the texture paste. I'm not really adding it where it's a smooth transition of the paint onto the cardstock. I'm just kind of blotting it down so that way it just looks like clumps of color. And then once again, I'm going to take my heating tool to dry my layers. Now, the 3 layers that I've added so far have all been pink, and I wanted to add a little bit more contrasting of a color. So I decided to add a little bit of my Distress Collage Medium. Now, this collage medium typically I'll use more as an adhesive, but it certainly does work to add a little bit more color to some of your backgrounds. So once again, I'm going in with that paintbrush and I'm adding some of that Distress Collage Medium on my texture paste. Now, after I had added the Vintage Collage Medium, I didn't bring a heating tool towards it because I still wanted it to be a little bit moist. And this is because I wanted to add a little bit of my infusion a coloring stain, which is a powder that will react with moisture. So I went ahead and sprinkled a little bit of that powder onto my cardstock, which still had the moisture of the Distress Collage medium. And then again, I just took my paintbrush and I smeared it around just to add a little bit more color. And adding these two colors really broke up the pink, and that way it looked a little bit more of a grungy card versus just a pink card. And then once again, I brought out my heating tool to go ahead and dry my layers. Alright, so once my layers were completely dry, I went ahead and got out some acrylic white gesso to put over the color. Now this gesso is a really nice way to kind of mute the colors a little bit, and I just really like the look that it creates because it kind of brings it together and it makes it more of an infused look versus just clumps of color. And I just took a paintbrush that had a really flat edge, and then I took that white acrylic gesso and just added it over my color. And as you can see, that white gesso did pull out some of the color, which gave me an opportunity to add a little bit more color to the white side of the card, which was towards my left. And it was just really subtle streaks that I was able to add by just pulling out some of that color. So the next thing I want to do is go ahead and layer my white cardstock onto this pink cardstock. But before I did this, I did bring out my heating tool once again, which I just did off of camera. You just want to make sure that your surface is nicely dry, so when you do go to add your adhesive, you're not smearing your paint all over your work area. And before I actually adhered my white cardstock, I did decide to bring out one of my distress crayons and just add a little bit more color to the edge of my white cardstock. Now I went with pink, but another way to make a nice drastic look is to use your black soot, which is a really nice bold color. It's just basically a black, but that really creates a nice border as well. And at this point, once I had my edges all colored up, it was time to adhere it to my pink cardstock. And I had already trimmed this down nicely to fit on the pink cardstock. Now typically when I'm trimming my paper, I go with the 1/4 inch rule. So if I'm making a card that's going to measure 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, then typically I'll trim my layers 1/4 inch each. So the white cardstock that you're seeing here that has all of the mixed media product is 1/4 inch smaller than the pink cardstock. And then once I had my white cardstock adhered to the pink cardstock, I did take out a distressing tool just to fray the edges just a bit to create a little bit more of a grunge look. Now as far as the background, I could have pretty much stopped at this point, but I did want to add just a little bit more interest. And that's just to cover up some of that white space. And this is just a personal preference. You definitely don't have to do this. But whenever I am creating a mixed media card, I do like to have just some random background just to add a little bit more interest. So I am taking this oversized stamp and I'm using my walnut stain distress ink, and I'm just going to add part of the stamp. I'm not going for a full impression. So as you can see, I'm just taking part of the stamp and pushing it down just to add some of that interest on the background. Okay, so now my background is complete, and it's time to add my point of interest. And I am going to go ahead and add one of the paper dolls from the THoltz collection, just because that typically is my go-to focal point when I am creating some of my mixed media cards. Alright, so digging through my stash, I found an old set of THoltz stamps, and it had these butterfly wings, which I thought would be really cute on this cute little girl. So I went ahead and I just adhered the wings to the back of the paper doll, and then I'm going to go ahead and use some foam tape to pop her up. And then I'll add a sentiment from one of my THoltz sticker sentiment sets, along with some washi tape to finish off the card. Alright, so let me go ahead and talk to you about the prices for this hop. Okay, so in order to be qualified for the drawing for the $100 gift certificate to CreateForLess, yes, I did say $100, so you don't have to stop and rewind. They're a very generous sponsor, and we're excited to have them sponsoring this video hop. So you're going to want to watch all 6 videos, and you're going to want to subscribe if you're not already a subscriber to the designer's YouTube channel. And then you're going to also want to leave a comment. Now, it's always nice to know if you're a new subscriber. So if you're a new subscriber, when you leave your comment, let us know that you are a new subscriber and where you're from. And of course, if you've enjoyed the video and our process technique, leave us a thumbs up. So after you've done all this, you're going to want to send an email to Janie at the Crafters Castle email, and I'll make sure I leave that below. And just let us know that you've completed all the requirements. And you're going to want to put hop entry in the subject line. And the emails are going to be what we use to pick the winner. Now we're going to go ahead and do the drawing about a week after the end of the video hop, and the video hop is going to end on June 7th. So anticipate a announcement on the winners somewhere around June 14th. So as always, I'll leave a list of all the products that I've used to create this card along with the links to the stores. Now don't forget, you're going to want to hop through all 6 videos and leave your comments, and don't forget that email, it's very important. All right everybody, I hope you've enjoyed my video, and we'll see you again next time.